Sometimes we have this image of Noah. Noah is just among the people, and then he has
Yeah.
this crazy revelation from God, and then he has to try to convince everyone, but nobody believes him because he's like a crazy prophet. But this is such a far more beautiful understanding, which is that they are the continuation. Noah is the continuation of the revelation from Adam, down from the garden. The memory of the garden is in him. The authority of Adam is transmitted to him. And therefore, he's not just like some guy that's there among the people. He really does represent those that have kind of kept themselves away from the breakdown of society that is going on. He is the memory of the garden. That is what makes him able to build the ark and to maintain the garden. And that's why the ark is a little image of the garden that continues through the chaos. So it's just such a better structure for understanding the sequence of events and makes more sense of everything. This is Jonathan Pajot. Welcome to the Symbolic World. Hello, everyone. We are here with Deacon Seraphim, continuing our series reading this amazing book, The Cave of Treasures. This is our third episode. Is it third or fourth? I'm not even sure.
Third.
But it's been great. I've been surprised because Deacon Seraphim, I know some of these traditions from the East, but I have never read, or if I read it a long time ago, I read it. And so it's like I'm just being constantly amazed and surprised by this. And so are you as viewers. And so Deacon Seraphim, but before we start, I think there's something important we need to announce.
So one of the questions I've gotten the most over the years, it's like for almost 5 years maybe now that we've been making these videos together. One of the questions I got most over the years is, hey, would you ever make something for homeschoolers? Would you ever make something for like a curriculum? Would you ever like kind of put all of this together into a reading list? Questions like that. People want to go deeper into this universal history thing more than just the monthly videos that we make. So we have heard everything you've asked for, and our courses, people get very excited about them. They're really great. We've been able to bring some amazing people to you, not to mention, of course, obviously also Jonathan and myself. And so we are going to do a Universal History Masterclass. This is going to be starting August the 5th through September the 9th. So this is a 6-week class. It's basically each week is going to be 2 to 3 hours plus Q&A time. So you're getting like 18, 20 hours. It'll be me doing a lot of the lectures, and then Jonathan will be in on a lot of the Q&As. But we're going to be going through basically every big pattern of universal history. We're going to provide primary sources, like people who want the receipts, people who want a reading list. All of that stuff is going to be here. We're going to start out on kind of the Greco-Roman side of things, what in the Middle Ages was called the Matter of Rome. And then, we'll kind of follow that thread, and then we'll double back and we'll do Genesis and readings of Genesis like the ones that we're covering today, and then show the way that those things have this incredible and sometimes like very difficult to see the direct causality, though you can see the evidence for it, have these effects all across Western Europe and have this big influence in the Western world. And then we'll kind of wrap up with talking about let's say stories from the edge, stories of Ethiopia, the Far East, the Far West. And then we'll look at the end times, which are the times we're living in now. No matter when you're living after the resurrection, you're living in the end times. But we'll talk about Holy Week as kind of the linchpin for all of this stuff. And then patterns of the end. So the Sibylline oracles, the apocalyptic apocryphal works, and of course, universal history in the New World. So we're going to try to lay everything out. I'm already, like, as I'm sitting down, writing out all the lectures and everything, which we're also going to make into a book, by the way, which is very exciting, but also terrifying. As I'm sitting down, like I can already feel the expansion creeping in. So there's a good chance you guys are going to get way more material than you thought you were out of this course. But I'm really excited about it. I think this is going to be one of the most important things that we do. There is a early bird special running through the end of July. So please, so you get 15% off, sign up for that. And we really hope to see you there in August.
Yeah, right. And I mean, this is exciting because in some ways this is kind of pulling together these several years that we've been doing this, really giving people the confidence to remember and to participate, to do it. Obviously, we've been doing it with stories, with everything, but this is you placing yourself in the great stream of history in
Yeah.
a manner that's not discombobulated, but really
Yeah,
has
every single class we're going to focus on how does, we're going to do some sort of practical application stuff, like how does this pattern kind of help you understand, and we may even have some assignments along those lines for those of you who like to do that sort of thing. So like I said, this is already running away with me, which usually is a good sign. Usually when I am so excited I have too much material, that means you guys are going to have a good time. So I hope you will join us in August.
All right. And so Deacon Seraphim, we've been through the first 1,000 years, and now I think we are at Enoch, who is very famous in a lot of the other texts.
Yeah.
But you mentioned to me that he's maybe not as important in this
I mean,
particular.
he's important, but not as important as some other figures that we're going to talk about today. Most importantly, Noah and Melchizedek. So when last we left our heroes, right, you have this line of priests and kings, which has been passed down from Adam, and now it's come to Enoch, and you have the children of Seth who are living higher up on the mountain of paradise, or the mountain of the assembly of God, and then down at the base of the mountain in the land of Nod, that's where the descendants of Cain are. And during the time of Yared, Enoch's father, there has been this cross. There's been this intermingling now between the two peoples, and we talked about that, and this is what's going to bring about the giants, the Nephilim, although we'll get a fun little note about that today. So that's where we're going to pick up. So Yared has passed away. Enoch is now ministering before God in the Cave of Treasures. And it says that the children of Seth turned aside from the right path and willed to go down to the children of Cain on the plain. And Enoch and Methuselah and Lamech and Noah mourned over them. And so what you see is the originally you have humanity kind of split in half: children of Seth, children of Cain. But now the pool of the righteous and faithful is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And Enoch had ministered before God for 50 years in the 65th year of the life of Noah. And when Enoch, it's very important to know that Enoch is 365 days old, or sorry, Noah is 365 years old at this point. It's the number of days in the year. Enoch is associated with the calendar. So it's when he is that many days old, this is when Enoch gets called up into heaven. And when Enoch knew that God was about to remove him from the earth, he called Methuselah and Lamech and Noah and said unto them, I know that God is wroth with this generation, and that a pitiless judgment hath been decreed for the people thereof. Ye are the chiefs of this generation, and the remnant thereof, for no other man shall be born on this mountain who shall be the chief of the children of his people. In other words, this thing that's been happening since Adam, this is about to stop. But take ye good heed to yourselves, and see that you minister before God in purity and holiness. And when Enoch had given them his commandment in these words, God removed him to the land of life, and to the delectable mansions which are round about paradise, and to that country which is beyond the reach of death. And of all the children of Seth there remained only these three patriarchs on the mountain of the triumphant ones, that is Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah, for all the others had betaken themselves to the encampment of the sons of Cain. Now, this is as much as we get about Enoch directly in the Cave of Treasures. In some other traditions, especially Ethiopian traditions, especially the Book of Enoch, what's sometimes called First Enoch, Enoch is kind of, is the main character. But the focus of that is, what did Enoch see and do when God took him up, right? And so that's where you get all of that kind of through his perspective. Now, there's a note here that which is actually just a quote from the Book of Enoch, chapter 10, which gives basically gives a kind of a complementary tradition to the one that we just read. And it says that Michael, Gabriel, Suriel, and Uriel looked down from heaven and saw the wickedness which Azazel had done in the world. And they heard the appeal which the souls of the dead were making to heaven. And it's kind of like the martyrs under the altar in the apocalypse. And they reported the matter to the Most High God. When God heard their word, he sent the angel. There's a few different ways to say this name, but I can't say it. Anyway, he sends an angel to the son of Lamech, i.e. Noah, with the command, hide thyself. No mention is made of Methuselah, who begot Lamech when he was 107 years old. There's a lot of genealogy stuff here. But then it says, Noah consolidated his position by marrying the daughter of Enoch. The angel revealed to Noah that a flood was about to cover the earth and told him how to escape from it. Then God commanded Raphael to bind Azazel hand and foot and to thrust him into a dark hole in the desert of Judea, which is a place near Jerusalem, perhaps, and heaped stones and rocks upon him, and there he was to remain unto the day of judgment, when he would be cast into the fire and consumed. Gabriel was sent to destroy all the children of fornication, and Michael was sent to bind Semyaza, another one of the evil demons, and the other decharchs of the children of Seth. So children of Seth are now being ruled over by these evil, these Nephilim, and to imprison them under the mountains of the earth for 70 generations, at which time they were to be taken to the abyss of fire and tortured there forever. So this is from the book of Enoch. And then another kind of complementary tradition that gets inserted right at this point is the list of the men who taught the arts of civilization who caused God to bring the flood on the earth. In other words, these are the sages, or these are the Nephilim, right? These are the great these are the great teachers, the hybrids who bring all this different knowledge. And I will just list off, I'm not going to read all their names, but I'll just list off some of the things that they taught as the arts of civilization, which basically the idea is humanity was not yet ready for these technologies. So one of them understood the sun. So this is calendar making, timekeeping, calendar making. Another quarried stones. Another instituted the month. Another introduced horse riding or maybe racing. Another invented the axe. Another invented the shield. Another taught men to play musical instruments. Another taught ironworking. Another discovered medicinal springs and made known the planetary hours when the waters were most effective. Another made the first meal grinder, like for grain to make bread. Another taught how to mix dough. Another taught the use of earthenware vessels for food. Another taught men to milk animals. Another taught men to make roofs. Another showed them how to make doors, butter making, carving wood and stone, cultivating trees, house building, potter's craft, agricultural implements, the use of eye paint.
Yeah.
The brewing of beer. Well, I just have to take a sip of beer real quick. The invention of the oven, teaching men to make plantations and gardens, how to fell trees and saw them up, dancing, architecture and writing, driving furrows, plows and leather whips, bronze, cedar and willow wood, board games, and circus games.
Yeah.
So that's the list. Now that is all from the Book of the Mysteries of Heaven and Earth. Well, no, that particular list is from the Book of the Mysteries of Heaven and Earth, which is, just another book kind of in this tradition. But what's really interesting about this is obviously most of the things listed are wholesome things in the right context, right? So it's not just a list of bad things. God is mad that we discovered how to make dough. Obviously a big part of our religion involves making dough.
Yeah. But I think it's what some of the things in there are there to help you kind of understand how it's leading to the breakdown. Obviously, everything that's related to making weapons, then also the eyeshadow. Because it says in the Book of Enoch for sure it has to do with metal, because the thing that the women would put on their eyes was a form of metal.
Yeah, we used to make cosmetics out of things like lead and arsenic.
Yeah, there you go. It kind of helps you understand, what
the crazy thing is that even then they knew it was poisonous. Like they knew it was poisonous, but they're like, but it looks so good.
Yeah, that's right. What are you going to do? It's what you have to suffer to be beautiful. That's what they say.
Right. That's right.
But it can help you understand the idea of the supplement, that we talk about, this idea of supplementarity in terms of weapons and ornamentation. This is in some way the dangerous aspect of civilization, which is that you start to rely on external means rather than a kind of internal beauty or internal wisdom. You start to supplement. And so that is obviously one of the things that leads to collapse. But then, what was I going to say? My brain just totally froze, and so I will let you continue. And
any applications to AI, Jonathan?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So I think that the image that we see in the Phaedrus with Plato, which is this idea of the supplement as externalization, that is the notion that writing is dangerous because when you place your intelligence outside of yourself and you maintain it in these fixed forms, that this somewhat leads to collapse. And so, of course, intelligent technology, that is, information technology and obviously AI is the ultimate example of that, where in some ways we're externalizing consciousness, we're externalizing memory, we're externalizing relations. All of this is kind of moving out into the machine. And you can see how this is like a vampire is kind of like sucking our wisdom away from us, like sucking our internal strength away from us. And obviously it's a dual thing. There's nothing wrong with technology, as we've said several times, that if you see later, God uses writing to write the scriptures. God uses architecture, bronze making, all of this stuff that is mentioned in order to make the tabernacle and to establish his worship. But this is, of course, the difference between, when you look at the way the tabernacle is made, it's focused on the inner glory, and then everything else is like an example of that glory. And so you can think about it, that's what it would have to be for you as well. That is, that if you focus on your inner virtue, then all of these things can lay themselves out properly. But if you're focused on power, then it becomes like a vampire that sucks you dry.
Yeah. So it says that when Noah saw that sin had increased in his generation, he preserved himself in virginity for 500 years. And I think one of the things that's being nodded at here is this idea that, obviously the time and place this is written, when as soon as you say so-and-so preserved themselves in virginity, the first thing the audience of this text is going to think of is a monastic.
Yeah, he's a monk.
Right. And if you read about, desert monasticism in particular, right, it's a total renunciation of literally everything on that list. The most these people would do would be maybe like making baskets and making bread, but pretty much even the good aspects of civilization, you could say the non-problematic aspects of civilization, just very basic things like, obviously we have to build buildings. Now, if you live in American suburbia like I do, you can see how even the seemingly innocuous action of building buildings could go wrong. Lots of examples of that also in like brutalist architecture and so on. But I'm just thinking,
one of the things I think in the list that's interesting to help us understand also the progression from the kind of inner coherence to an outer externalization into chaos is, of course, the board games. That is, the games of chance. They are an example of carnival, right? They're an example of the edge when things stop to be coherent, and that we engage in a type of behavior that is related to chance and to chaos. And I mean, obviously in the Book of Enoch list, there's also the magic, like the divination, necromancy, all of these types of behaviors. In this one, you don't have that, but the idea of the games of chance is definitely part of games of chance are. I want to be careful not to freak people out, but games of chance are related to divination, because what you do is you kind of use chaos in order to come to decision making. Yeah,
that's why. I mean, boy, there's probably like at least once a week somebody sends me an email like, "Hey, would you consider doing a video on tarot?" And I'm always like, "No, I'm probably not going to do that." But what's really interesting about the history of tarot, so guys, this is it. This is all you're getting out of me this year, okay? What's interesting about tarot is that tarot really does begin initially just as a card game.
Yeah.
Right. And then as afterwards, the divinatory aspects of it are added. But it's a very natural progression for the reason that you just mentioned. By the way, one of the games that is mentioned here seems to be related in some way to backgammon. So it's but it's a super ancient game that was played in ancient Egypt and so on, which just, I mean, goes to prove, the thing that Middle Eastern men are always doing is sitting around playing backgammon. Yeah. So when so Noah is on the flip side of this, he's sort of renouncing all of these things. And this is what I think anyway is being kind of signified by his choosing virginity, right? But it's along with that, it's the sort of monastic existence up on the mountain while all of this stuff is going down, in the valley. And then God spake unto him and said unto him, Take unto thee a wife, Haiko, the daughter of Nemus, the daughter of Enoch, the brother of Methuselah. God revealed unto him concerning the flood, which he was making ready to produce. And he spake to him and said unto him, 130 years from this moment, I will make a flood. Now, this is, so here's one tradition that Noah marries the daughter or granddaughter. There's a few different, it's a little contradictory, but basically a daughter or granddaughter of Enoch. But then there's a little note, which says, the book of Adam says that Hakel was the daughter of Abaraz, who was one of the children of the family of Enos. who went into perdition. If this be so, then Noah married a woman who is akin to the children of Cain. So I know this is something you've talked about before, but to me, it's an interesting mirror image because, of course, anybody who's ever read the genealogies in Genesis knows that this name Enos,
Yeah.
or which sounds like Enoch, it's not the same name, but this name appears on both sides of the lineage, right? It appears on both sides of the family.
Yeah, but
So
there are several names that really kind
yeah,
of appear on both sides of the family, and this is definitely there's clearly some deep parallel here. When in some ways it's almost like an evil twin, right? You have
yeah.
these two aspects of the same name or the same character.
Seth has a son named Enosh, and Cain has a son named Enoch, right? And then Jared, who's a few generations down from Seth, has a son whom he also names Enoch. So there's this kind of strange mirror image sort of thing happening all the way up to the time of Lamech. On the one side, Lamech is, of course, the one who kills Cain. And then he's the same generation as Enoch, right? So it's just, but then Enoch's grandson is also named Lamech.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that Lamech is that he's not, doesn't seem to be, he's sort of like, is passed over. So basically, we'll read this in a moment, but the kingship is passed over directly from Methuselah to Noah. And Lamech, because of the overlap of their lives, because Methuselah lived so long, we're told that Lamech is sort of passed over. So now we get the instructions to build the ark. God said unto Noah, make for thyself an ark for the saving of the children of thy house, and build it in the plain below this mountain, in the encampment of the children of Cain. And you shall cut down the timber for the same from the trees that are on this mountain. So the ark is going to actually be built in the plain below, which is in the land of Nod, the encampment of the children of Cain, which is an interesting detail. I don't think it's ever occurred to me to think about, hey, where exactly did Noah build the ark? Right. But the wood that's going to be used for the ark is going to be taken from the mountain of paradise, the mountain of the sons of Seth. So we're bringing the wood down the mountain, and then we're actually doing with it all of these things that the children of Cain, that the Nephilim and so on, that they invent,
Sure.
they bring about. We're going to, which includes, building doors, building windows, building roofs, building structures, felling trees, sawing wood, milling, all these things, which are civilizational arts, so you can understand that those things couldn't actually happen higher up on the mountain.
Yeah. And, my favorite tradition about who the son of Noah is obviously the idea that it's Nama, because she is one of the only women in the genealogy that's named as
Yeah,
the
that's right.
sister of Tubal-Cain. And I always really like that idea because of what we're saying here, which is in some ways, although there's this danger, this breakdown of civilization that happens related to technology and the increase of power, that God nonetheless gives Noah a plan, really like he does with the tabernacle. He's like, here's a technical plan, and this is how you're going to do it. Build it with this wood, this size and everything. And that's why I think that the idea that in some ways this is, God showing how he can restore, transform our activities towards something good is being shown in the Bible story, but then obviously also in these other ones.
Yeah. So God says, make for yourself the ark. You're going to cut the timber from the mountain, and then we get the dimensions, of course. And then we're told, and make 3 stories in it. The lowermost shall be for wild animals and cattle, the middle one for the birds and the feathered fowl, and the topmost for thee and the children of thy house. So it's really interesting to see what is happening with the ark, which anybody who's read Matthew's book, or St. Ephraim's hymns on paradise and so on. But the funny thing is, like, this is a thing St. Ephraim mentions. Is like, oh yeah, the ark had a 3-tiered structure, and that corresponds to the structure of the mountain of God. And if you just sort of read that in St. Ephraim, you're like, okay, St. Ephraim, like, where are you getting that from? Well, this text is actually probably getting it from St. Ephraim, actually. But it's just interesting to see it's very explicitly spelled out here, right? So the idea is that the ark itself is becoming a mountain, right? With wild beasts, and then flying things, which are more spiritual because they're in the air, and then humanity at the top.
Yeah. And also, I mean, it really is the structure of the tabernacle itself. The three-tiered
Right.
structure is there in the tabernacle, in the temple. It's there in the church,
Yeah.
and that this is really, it's really a universal structure. And so I think there's also this call to help you understand that in some ways the ark is a proto tabernacle as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, if you like that idea, just wait. Um, so we're gonna get we got kind of all sorts of instructions for how to make the ark, and then you guys are gonna love this. And make to thyself a striking board of Eshkar, a wood which shall not rot, um, 3 cubits long, and a cubit and a half in breadth. And there shall be a hammer of the same kind of wood, and with it thou shalt strike the board 3 times a day. Once in the morning, that the workmen may be gathered together for the work of the ark, and once at midday, that they may eat food, and once at sunset, so that they may cease from their labor. And when thou strikest the board, and hear the sound of the blows, and say unto thee, What is this that thou doest? Thou shalt say unto them, God is going to make a flood of waters.
Hmm.
And Noah did as God commanded him, and there were born unto him 3 sons within the space of 100 years, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and they took unto them wives of the daughters of Methuselah. What is this possibly a reference to,
I
Jonathan?
know.
Any
I mean,
ideas?
because most Orthodox people,
Yeah,
first of all, don't know that if you go to an Orthodox monastery still today, this is how they call you to the services, is by going around and hitting a giant wooden
yeah.
board.
They have a big, big, long piece of wood, and it's got slots cut in it, so it reverberates at a certain thing. And then they strike it different places and different rhythms. It's very musical. You can find it's called a semantron, by the way. So you can go look this up on YouTube. The funny thing is that I was told the historical explanation for the semantron was that, oh, the Turks wouldn't let us have bells anymore, and so we
Oh,
had to
that's
start doing
bullshit.
this.
The Ethiopians have cementrons. What the hell are you talking about? They call people to church, not just to the monastery.
Right? Yeah.
Some actual like normal like churches have this as a way
Yeah.
to call people
And
to.
this text was written, just by the way, before the Arab conquest, right? And you have one clearly described.
Yeah.
Um, but the funny thing is, I was told, and this is a popular anecdote, it's not special knowledge that I have, but I was told, there's a guy at Athos, and he's staying in a cell there, and he's never been before, and then he gets woken up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Some guy's beating the semantron, and he says, "Oh, what's that sound?" And one of the monks says, "Noah is building the ark. You
Oh
better get
man,
on."
that's so
And
cool.
so when I read this, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" Because what it makes then is this summons, which is like basically to tell the workmen when to stop, when to start, and things like this, becomes a summons to the ark, which itself is being built as a new mountain, built as a new temple, as a place where God can be worshipped. So you're calling people to the temple, you're calling people to church, which is the only way they're going to escape the destruction. Of course, nobody listens.
Yeah, and there's something I think also in the idea of hitting this wood that is related to paradise. It's related to also to a kind of return to paradise. The idea that it's not metal bells, because obviously we do use metal bells in the Orthodox Church, but
Yep.
the idea that the most primal virgin, that the original virgin did the semantron, and even like if you go to monasteries now, often they still will ring the normal bells, like they'll ring like the metal bells, but there'll still be a monk running around the monastery with his plank, just hitting the plank in order to kind of remind you of that more primordial
Yeah.
call, like the call of the tree.
It is a very distinctive sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you hear it, it's hard to get it out of your head. Um, so there's another detail here, by the way, which is that Noah begets a son during the 100 years when he's building the ark, and during these years he eats no animal food. He wears the same pair of sandals which do not wear out. He wears the same apparel and headcloth which do not run out, and he carries the same staff which does not wear out. His hair neither increases nor diminishes. Now, at some point, we'll come back and do a whole little mini series maybe on Noah and weird stories about Noah, because man, oh man, are there some weird stories about Noah? But this is kind of related to all of those things, that he's sort of like God is sort of preserving him in kind of this, I don't know how to say it, like perfect homeostasis
Yeah.
so he's not aging, His hair's not falling out, but it's also not growing. His nails aren't growing. They're not, so like everything is the same. His clothes, his sandals, everything is just perfectly preserved. And then also during this time, he's abstaining from animal food.
Yeah. And I think we need to connect this to all of the stories of this notion of preserving the light in the moment of difficulty, and so you have, of course, the story of Jezebel and the preserving of the prophets, in a cave. But that goes all the way to the sleepers of Ephesus, where you have this idea that in the time of persecution, these young people go into the cave, they fall asleep and they are preserved completely until the persecution is finished. These are stories about this, how in fact the seed is being gathered, in the time where things are falling apart, and that this is the image of preservation, so that when, for the new world, basically. And so it's an image of the ark itself. You could say what's happening to Noah is what the ark will in some ways be, this kind of gathering together, and preserving over the flood.
Yeah. Yeah. So when Lamech had lived 770 years, he died during the lifetime of Methuselah, his father. So Methuselah outlives his son 40 years before the flood, on the 21st day of the month of September, on the first day of the week, in the 68th year of the life of Shem, the firstborn of Noah. And Noah, his firstborn, embalmed him, and Methuselah, his father, swathed him for burial, and they buried him in the cave of treasures and mourned him for 40 days. And then Methuselah and Noah remained alone on the mountain. For all the children of Seth had gone down from the skirts of the mountains of paradise to the plain where the children of Cain lived. And men, the children of Seth, had intercourse with the daughters of Cain, who conceived of them and brought forth men, giants, and the sons of giants, who were like unto towers. Now, because of this, certain ancient writers have fallen into error and have written that angels came down from heaven and had intercourse with men, and by them these famous giants had been produced. But this is not true, for those who have written in this manner did not understand the facts. Behold, O my brother readers, and know ye that it is not in the nature of the beings of the spirit to beget, neither is it in the nature of the devils, who are unclean beings and workers of wickedness and lovers of adultery, to beget, because there are neither males nor females among them. And since the time when the angels fell, not another angel has been added to their number. And if the devils were able to have intercourse with women, they would not leave unravished a single virgin. I'm really sorry about getting this video demonetized, in all the race of the children of men. So I just wanted to read this to make sure that we're sort of fairly reporting, because one of the things we talked about a lot last episode is the way in which you could say the sort of the ritual fornication hypothesis, to understand which is what they talk about on the Lord of Spirits, and which I believe kind of perfectly explains, sort of squares the circle between the angelic hypothesis and the Sethite hypothesis for the sons of God. To me, this text explains all of that thing. It acknowledges the problem. Okay, these are not embodied beings. They don't have sex. They don't have gender in this way. But they are, of course, workers of wickedness and lovers of adultery. So what they're doing is prompting humans to act in this way, which I think is, a way of describing what they talk about in Lord of Spirits. But anyway, I don't know if you have anything
No,
to
I
say
agree.
about
And
this.
you wish that Tucker Carlson could have heard Father Stephen trying to make sure he didn't fall into the category error of believing that, that disembodied spirits could reproduce.
Yes. Well, maybe someday Tucker will have me on to read the Cave of Treasures to him.
Wouldn't that be great?
Can you imagine just his reactions the whole time? It'd be hilarious. It'd be hilarious. So, when Methuselah had lived 969 years, and the day of his departure had drawn nigh, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth and their wives came unto him. Now, of all the posterity of Seth, who had not betaken themselves down to the plain, only these 8 souls were left: Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and their wives, for no children were born to them before the flood. And when these gathered themselves together, it's interesting, right? When these gathered themselves together to Methuselah, they had been blessed by him. He embraced and kissed them sorrowfully, and wept over the fall of the children of Seth. And he said unto them, of all the tribes and families of your fathers, this remnant, consisting of 8 souls, alone is left. May the Lord God of our fathers bless you, the Lord God that formed our father Adam and Eve by themselves. And they were fruitful and multiplied, in the whole of the blessed land, which was round about paradise, was filled with a progeny, shall make you to be fruitful and multiply, and the whole earth shall be filled with you. He shall save you from the terrible wrath which hath been decreed against this rebellious generation. And he shall be with you, he shall protect you, and the gift which was given by God unto our father Adam, shall go forth with you from this holy country. And these 3 measures of the wheat of blessings, which God gave unto your father Adam, shall serve as leaven and shall be kneaded into your soul and into the seed of your children. So what are the 3 measures? What are the 3 gifts given to Adam? They are royalty, priesthood, and prophecy. In other words, prophet, priest, and king.
Yeah.
Right. These are the 3 things which belong unto Adam and unto his descendants.
Yeah.
Right. Which over the course of the Old Testament are kind of fractured and then are obviously renewed in Christ.
Gathered in Christ. I think one of the important things like to think of and to help us is that the way that this is set up really helps us understand the idea that, because sometimes we have this image of Noah, like in some of the stories, Noah is just among the people, and then he has this crazy revelation from God, and then he has to try to convince everyone, but nobody believes him because he's like a crazy prophet. But this is such a far more beautiful understanding, which is that they are the continuation. Noah is the continuation of the revelation from Adam, down from the garden. The memory of the garden is in him. The authority of Adam is transmitted to him. And therefore, he's not just like some guy that's there among the people. He really does represent those that have kind of kept themselves away from the breakdown of society that is going on. And so it gives Noah it's a more beautiful understanding, a more beautiful vision of also how kind of God maintains his memory in the world. And that's why he is who he is. He's not just some random guy. He is the memory of the garden, and that is what makes him be able to build the ark and to maintain the garden. And that's why the ark is a little image of the garden that continues through the chaos. So it's just such a better structure for understanding this sequence of events and makes more sense of everything.
Yeah. So you're going to be very excited about this next part. So we get the command to God's going to make the flood when I die and bound my body, bury me in the cave of treasures with my fathers, take your family and get you down from this holy mountain, and then take with thee not all the bodies of the patriarchs, but the body of our father Adam, and these 3 offerings which were brought from paradise, gold and myrrh and frankincense. I don't know why these keep being mentioned.
They just keep
I feel like it might come up in a sort of universal history of Persia kind of a way, though. So we'll just keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
We'll just keep an eye on it. Set the body of Adam in the middle of the ark, and lay these offerings upon him.
Oh, wow.
So
they brought just Adam's body and in the middle of the ark.
They bring Adam's body into the ark, along with these 3 relics from paradise. And thou and thy son shall occupy the eastern part of the ark, and thy wife and thy son's wife shall occupy the western part thereof. Thy wife shall not pass over to you, and you shall not pass over to them. You shall neither eat nor drink with them, and you shall have no intercourse whatever with them until you go forth from the ark. So what's the ark?
My goodness, it's like a church, really.
It's a church.
With a relic in the middle.
You have a relic in the middle. You have the sexes segregated as they traditionally have been in Christian worship. And also, there's certain things which are good things to do, but you're not allowed to do them in the ark.
Right, yeah. And I mean, there's the idea also that the people maintain their virginity while they're in the sea, like while they're in this, like this ark, makes so much sense. I wonder, like, maybe you'll tell me that that's what's there, but I wonder if they mentioned that the animals also abstained from reproduction while they're.
So it's not mentioned here, as maybe I missed it and we'll come across it, or maybe I forgot about it and we'll come across it again. But that was an initial like thought. I would just assume that would have to be the case. Like that would seem like would have to be the case.
It would make sense that would happen because of this kind of gathering in, right?
Yeah. So then he says, now this generation hath provoked God to wrath. He will neither permit them to be neighbors of those who are in paradise, nor to praise him with the angels. And when the waters of the flood have subsided over the face of the earth, and you go forth from the ark and take up your abode in that land, thou, O Noah, the blessed of the Lord, shall not depart from the ark, from the body of our father Adam, but minister thou before God in the ark purely and holily all the days of thy life. So the ark is going to remain, once the waters recede, remain as the new mountain of God. It's the new temple.
Wow.
Right? Very explicitly so. That's why earlier when you're like, oh, the ark is a kind of tabernacle, I was like, just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait.
So it actually becomes almost like the tabernacle. Once the flood subsides, it becomes like this image of a temple at the top of a hill.
And then it says, and command thou Shem, thy firstborn, to take up with him after thy death the body of our father Adam, and to carry it and deposit it in the middle of the earth. And let him there establish a man from among his descendants who shall minister there, and he shall be one who is set apart. The word here is Nazira, which has to do with kind of monasticism, all the days of his life. He shall not take a wife, he shall not shed blood, he shall not offer up these offerings of wild animals and feathered fowl, but he shall offer up unto God bread and wine. For by these redemption shall be made for Adam and all his posterity. Cool idea for a religion. Bread and wine, redemption for all the human race. Okay. And the angel of God shall go before him, and he shall show him the place where the middle of the earth is situated, and the apparel of him that shall stand there to minister before the body of Adam. Now, I really want to get your take on this. The apparel of him that shall stand up there to minister before the body of Adam shall be the skins of wild animals. He shall not shave off the hair of his head. He shall not cut his nails, but he shall remain alone in his natural state because he's the priest of God the Most High.
Yeah, for sure. There's like a Nazarite idea there, and there's also this idea of the uncut stones, right, as being the most primordial altar. And then obviously this idea that Salem, right, this idea that Salem as the center of the world, like this place of peace, and that Melchizedek is this character, right, that kind of is a
this is obviously describing Melchizedek, as we'll learn later on, but
right. But I mean, it's like the tradition that Shem is Melchizedek is one that is not only in this text. Like it's a tradition.
It's not Shem as Melchizedek. It's one of the descendants of Shem. So they are separate people in this text.
Okay, so it's not that Shem himself is Melchizedek, but his descendants are the ones that kind of are Melchizedek. But there are traditions that say that it's actually Shem himself that survives after the flood and actually is the one that encounters Abraham.
Well, my favorite Melchizedek tradition is that Melchizedek is alive before the flood as one of the descendants of Shem, which is not here. Here, Shem doesn't have any children before the flood, but I think it's in 3rd Enoch. We have this tradition that Melchizedek is brought up into paradise during the flood.
Yeah.
And then he goes out into the world afterwards.
Which is why he's without generation. This kind of idea that he precedes the new beginning. He's something from the ancient world. Yeah, I've heard that tradition that Shem spent the flood in paradise, which is all of these are interesting ideas that kind of help circle around the same idea, the same notion, which is that what Melchizedek represents in the Old Testament is a restoration of the primordial Eden, right? And that it's something that in some ways transcends even the revelation of Moses. It's like it's the continuation of God's presence in the Garden of Eden.
And by the way, guys, what Jonathan just said there is not that's not just Jonathan saying that. Like, this is the whole argument of the New Testament.
Yeah.
Right, which is used over and over again, notably in the epistles to the Hebrews, in which, there's this whole sort of question, well, how can Christ be the great high priest if he's not from the line of Levi, if he's not descended from Aaron? I mean, he sort of is actually on his mother's side, but regardless, right, he's from the tribe of Judah, right? So that was a joke, by the way. All of Christ's ancestors are on his mother's side. Okay. All right. Anyway,
it's complicated. I don't know. It's to square that in the genealogy. I mean, the way the genealogy is described is very symbolic because it's kind of.
No, he has no human father. That's the joke.
Yes,
it's just they're all on his mother's side. Okay. Yeah. But the tradition is. I mean, just keeping in mind that Elizabeth and Zechariah, they're cousins of the Theotokos, right? So there's some kind of a relation there, to the Levitical line, to the priesthood. Yeah.
Sure.
But in any case, it's hard doing the jokes to the camera, because it's just I have no idea if they're landing. But all right. The argument that's made in the Epistle to the Hebrews is that Christ's priesthood is after the manner or after the order of Melchizedek, right? Which predates not just Moses, it actually predates Abraham. Abraham gives a tithe to Melchizedek, which means that all the descendants of Abraham who are sort of in their father's loins, they're also tithing to Melchizedek. So the Melchizedek priesthood is greater than the priesthood of Aaron, because Aaron through Abraham is giving a tithe to Melchizedek.
Yeah.
So then the question would be, well, what's up with Melchizedek? And this is a question that a lot of people in the Second Temple Jewish period, a lot of people in early Christianity are very interested in for obvious reasons. And so that's kind of all these different legends we get about him. We'll definitely do, I think, once we get through the Cave of Treasures, maybe doing an episode just focused on traditions about Noah, and then one just focused on traditions about Melchizedek. This would be very helpful to people, right? All of these traditions are circling around a deeper symbolic truth. So you shouldn't get too hung up on, oh, these details are different from these details, right? You should look at the patterns as a whole and figure out, how does this help us actually understand Christ? That's always the goal that we're seeking here.
And
And
that's
there's
why
certainly
this idea that he goes to the center of the world, right?
right,
He goes to
right,
the middle. He's an image of that middle. And then it becomes an image of Jerusalem. Salem and Jerusalem become
right,
conflated together as this image of the center of the world.
right. So, but this you'll understand that this is setting us up to make sense of when Genesis says Melchizedek was the king of Salem and a priest of the Most High God. The idea is that there's a priesthood and a kingship and a prophetship, and these three things go together, and they're going to become preserved in the person of Melchizedek after the flood, right? So,
This is the first time I hear the idea that he actually took Adam's body.
yeah,
That in that place is Adam's body, which comes to, obviously, I mean, it's just interesting because it actually, if you think about him bringing Adam's body to Jerusalem, it's one of the lineages that can help you understand, the crucifixion and the stories
right,
about Christ's blood,
right,
going down on Adam.
yep. That's what this is all moving towards.
Yeah.
Also Persia, but anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So, when Methuselah had commanded Noah to do these things, by the way, obviously you should be thinking about one of the other descriptions. This is from the book of Adam, is that Shem was to appoint Melchizedek, the son of Canaan, the grandson of Arphaxad, to be the priest of the Most High God. He was to stand and minister on the mountain, which is the middle of the earth. That's Zion. And he was to wear a garment of skin and have a leather girdle about his loins, and his apparel was to be humble and without ornament. So again, like here he looks like suspiciously like John the Baptist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. When Methuselah had commanded Noah to do all these things, he died with tears in his eyes and sorrow in his heart. That is like, I don't know why that hit me so hard the first time I read it, but I was like, man, I kind of like, because none of the rest of them die sad, but Methuselah dies sad.
Yeah,
Because this
but
whole world
it's
is
so
about to pass
interesting
away.
because it just makes so much sense to realize that they know, like, they see what's coming, and they're they're obviously, for their own progeny, like their own kin, like they know that this is not going a nice place.
Yeah. It's super sad, and in a way, s- I hope that one thing that we can get to someday. And when when I say we, I just all of us who are watching this, who are interested in talking about these things, these stories should feel actually deeply personal, right? This stuff is in many ways closer to you than like the stories of like your great grandparents and the things that they did in their lives, right? Because this is our family story, the story of the human race. But this is the stuff that basically establishes the patterns by which the rest of us are kind of, I don't want to say forced to live, but these are the patterns. You can't do anything about that. So
Mm.
anyway, yeah, just really kind of gut wrenching to me. And he was 969 years old when he died on the 14th day of the month of March. So almost the middle of the month, on the first day of the week, which is a Sunday in the 79th year of the life of Shem, the son of Noah. And Noah, his grandson, embalmed the body of Methuselah with myrrh and cassia and stocte. And Noah and his sons buried him in the cave of treasures, and they and their wives made mourning for him for 40 days. And when the days of his mourning had passed, Noah went into the cave of treasures and embraced and kissed the holy bodies of Seth and Enosh and Canaan and Mahalalel and Yared and Methuselah and Lamech his father. And he was greatly moved, and tears gushed from his eyes. And Noah carried the body of our father Adam and the body of Eve, and his firstborn Shem carried the gold. So, by the way, they also get Eve's body out. And his firstborn Shem, which, now you can sort of imagine on the ark, it's like, this is the Adam side, this is the Eve side. Like, what does that remind anybody of if you've ever been to an Orthodox church, right?
Yeah.
You have a new Adam side, you have a new Eve side, right?
That's right.
So, and Ham carried the myrrh and Japheth the frankincense, and they went forth from the cave of treasures. And as they were coming down from that holy mountain, they were smitten sorely with grief, and they wept in agony before they were to be because they were to be deprived of that holy place and the habitation of their fathers. And weeping painfully and wailing sorrowfully and enveloped in gloom, they said, and now we get a poem, and you're all going to be forced to listen to it because this is the first great lament, in human history. Remain in peace, O holy paradise, thou habitation of our father Adam. He went forth from thee alive, but stripped of glory and naked. And behold, at his death he was deprived of thy nearness. He and his progeny were cast out into exile in that land of curses to pass their days there in pain and sickness and in labor and in weariness and in trouble. Remain in peace, O cave of treasures. Remain in peace, O habitation and inheritance of our fathers. Remain ye in peace, O our fathers and patriarchs. Pray ye for us, O ye who live in the dust, ye friends and beloved ones of the living God. Pray ye for the remnant of your posterity which is left. O ye who have propitiated God, make supplication unto him on behalf in your prayer, our behalf in your prayers. Remain in peace, O Enosh. Remain in peace, O ye ministers of God, Canaan and Mahalalel and Yared and Methuselah and Lamech and Enoch, although of course Enoch's not actually in there. Cry out in sorrow on our behalf. Remain in peace, O haven and asylum of the angels. O ye our fathers, cry out in sorrow on our behalf, because you will be deprived of our society, and we will cry out in sorrow, because we are cast out into a bare land, for our habitation will be with the wild beasts. And as they were coming down from that holy mountain, they kissed the stones thereof, and embraced the delectable trees thereof. And in this wise they came down and wept with great sorrow, and shed scalding or bitter tears, and suffering sorely, they descended to the plain. And Noah went into the ark, and deposited the body of Adam in the middle thereof, and he placed these offerings upon it. Now, there is another tradition that says that when Noah, this is in the book of Adam, when Noah and his sons were carrying the body of Adam out of the cave, the bodies of the other patriarchs cried out and asked the body of Adam if they were to be separated from it. Adam replied that he must leave the holy mountain, and told them that he knew that God would bring their bodies together again on another occasion, and bade them wait patiently. Adam asked God to allow the lighted lamp to remain with the bodies in the cave until the resurrection. This God did, and then he closed the cave until the day of the resurrection. Noah and his sons marveled greatly when they heard the bodies of the patriarchs talking together in the cave. Having carried away the body of Adam and the gold and myrrh and frankincense, they returned to the mountain, intending to enter the cave once again. They sought carefully, but could not find the cave. And then they knew that God had sealed it and had hidden it from them, so that they might never dwell therein again. And this is the end of the second 1,000 years of the posterity of Adam, from the time to the time of the flood, according to this reckoning. So
that's quite amazing, and it's what's interesting is then you really see how the medieval maps would know with this idea that Eden is in the extreme, right? Eden is actually in the east, because you could think like why Eden should be in the middle, right? It's
Right.
the middle plate, but it's like it's in the extreme of the east, and the middle is Jerusalem. Is the place where Melchizedek. It's like this idea of that Jerusalem and Salem are Zion. These are all the same place. And so it's just interesting that it really connects really well with all of the medieval way that they understood their geography. Yeah, in this way. Yeah.
So the next 1,000 years is going to basically be, it's going to be from the time of the flood to, there's going to be actually a lot of surprising stuff. But basically it's from the time of the flood to Babel, or not quite to the time of Babel. But then we're going to start getting into the origins of Egypt. We're going to get into the founding of Jerusalem. We're going to get into all the stuff. And very quickly, we're going to start moving into the story of the rest of the Old Testament. But always with some interesting surprises along the way. So the problem now is that we've been doing this for like 50 minutes, and I kind of don't want to start
We should stop.
halfway
I
through
mean,
the
I think
flood
it's okay.
stuff.
We don't
Yeah, I don't
have
want to
to
stop.
make it
I don't
2
want
hours
to.
each. This is great for your personal disciplines. Like,
That's
look at this. You
quitter.
did it
That's a
in
quitter
50
talking. It's a
50
quitter
minutes.
talking.
It's
Oh my
amazing.
gosh. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think we should stop because I don't want to stop halfway through all of the all the Noah stuff. You know, the
Yeah,
stuff about the first city that Noah founded after he got off the ark, and was this a good idea? The vineyard of Noah. What happens with the drunkenness and all these things? Um,
definitely wanna hear about all that stuff, for
Yeah,
sure.
so, like, I don't wanna give any of that short shrift, and,
Alright,
of course, we'll get Shem, we'll get Golgotha, we'll get Melchizedek, we're gonna get all this exciting stuff, and then, of course, um, the Tower of Babel. So, I think what we'll do is just stop right here, and, in our next video, we'll pick up, and we'll try to do the third 1,000 years all in one big go.
alright, and so, guys, thanks for your attention. Do not forget, go to the Universal History Masterclass. This is your chance to bring it all together, and to also be able, when you talk to your kids or when you talk to the people around you, to just have that line in your mind, that kind of solidity of continuation. So,
Yeah.
we will see you there as well, and we'll also see you next time for Universal History. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.